everyone! Welcome to a very special lunch break. We're super excited about today because today we have our Madrinas! Yay!
Yay!
We have three
Hi.
of our leaders in our community. For those of you who don't know, our Madrinas are women who have stepped up as leaders in this space to hold space, to help whether it's with an event, whether it's with whatever we have going on, just to stay connected to the women in the community and keep everyone present and engaged. And we're super excited to have you guys. There are more Madrinas, but we got a few today. Some of them might actually be joining as we chat, so we'll see. It's gonna be pretty casual today, everyone. We just want to start introducing you to a little bit more behind the scenes of our community. For the last several weeks, I think we've done what, like 25 lunch breaks?
Something yes, we have.
So we're
28 or 29 because we started on the 1st.
Holy, wow.
Oh, okay. Wait, no, I'm sorry, because we forget the weekend. So yes, like 25.
Like 25 lunch breaks, which is pretty amazing and impressive. And we have been so excited and so proud of how the women of our community have stepped up to this moment and been so open in sharing their wisdom and their experiences to help support everyone in the broader community and all the things that are going on. And today is really about getting to know us as a community a little bit closer. And today, as I said, will be more of a casual conversation. But we will kick it off the way we kick off every lunch break, which is, what are you grateful for today? So, who wants to go first?
I'll jump in because I was just talking about it a minute ago, and that is that it's the first day of the year that I'm able to wear a t-shirt because I live in Spain, so that's continental weather and it's been very cold up until now. So I had a sun bath this morning and I'm super happy about that.
Yay.
A sun bath, I love it.
Awesome. You is next.
Okay, I'll go. I am grateful for being able to go through the motions of what's going on, just like witnessing it, going through it, and centering myself, and also for all the great things that emerge from that, which is great plans coming up. I'm also very grateful for having my husband working from home more days out of the week, so he's less exposed. So
you want to tell us what your husband does?
Yes, he's a physician. He works for the at the VA hospital, and he's been working very, very, very diligently and hard, and he's undergone a lot of stress. Towards the beginning of all of this, he was going there every single day, many hours per day, and I was on the outside I was fine, but inside it gets to you and it gets stressful, and his family also was worried, and but we took all the precautions. He's been very, very, very careful, and now we're lucky to have him here more. He still goes, for some things, but a lot less. So
okay.
I'm very grateful for that.
We are all very grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can go. I am grateful for pause. I think the month, it's been like peaks of productivity and lulls, and I think it really has just forced me to like accept pause for what it is, and using that time to pivot. So
awesome.
Finding the silver lining.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Amy, what you got?
I am grateful for all the love that I received on my birthday yesterday. It was super cool to see, people all over the country. There were people that came into a Zoom call. There were people that texted, and I felt all the love. And as somebody who needs a lot of people in their life, I was like, it's my birthday in quarantine. And it was well received.
Awesome. I am super grateful for this moment, like being here with all of you. I think like one of the coolest things about this community is that ever since this whole thing started, there have been a lot of challenges, but I haven't felt alone. Like, I really have always felt like I had people that I could reach out to, that I had people that would like be there for me if I needed them. And it's just that sense of support that's been really nice to just like know that I live with that, you know, that's something like steady in my life right now. And so for our conversation today with our lovely madrinas, and as I said, we may have some more madrinas jumping on a little later, so today's going to be pretty casual, but we wanted to talk about something today that comes up from time to time as a topic of conversation in our community. And we want to be like, we wanted to have a kind of a more open conversation about it, outside of just the private space, where really, because one of the impacts that this community has had and is that, for example, we have women in the space that will tell us, this is the first time in my life that I've ever had a real girlfriend, like a real female friend. Or, hey, Tina.
Hi.
So we'll have people say that to us, like, this is the first time in my life I've had girlfriends, or this is the first time in my life that I've really had a chance to trust women. And I thought it would be like a really interesting topic to take on and speak about more openly, because it's something that we get to say out loud. I think there's a lot of people out there who still have trouble trusting other women, who still have trouble being in a space where they could be vulnerable and they could let their guard down and feel like they can really be who they are, and that they will be not only accepted, but actually welcomed and embraced and cherished for it. So that's kind of like the topic that we're going to kick it off, and we'll see how it goes. But I know that there's lots of interesting opinions and experiences to share around the room. Who would like to start this off? Nina, go for it.
So I feel like I've benefited from always having a circle of like girlfriends or sisterhood in that capacity. I mean, I was in Girl Scouts when I was little, and I was in Girl Scouts for a long time. So the concept of sisterhood and being a sister like that was from the get. You know, I joined when I was 5. So, but I will say that like once I left that little cocoon, and as an adult, like I feel like I understand how hard it is to try and make adult female friends and to have that same kind of connection and bond. And to open up to women, which I feel like from my perspective, like the intimacy is a little bit different than it's, you know, traditionally felt in like when you're trying to date someone or you're trying to get to know someone else as just a friend or as a coworker, like it's a different vibe. But being able to have that kind of sisterhood, especially now, you know, like some of the things that have really helped me kind of get through this has been FaceTimes with, you know, different girlfriends, or, you know, Zoom calls and things like that. And just understanding that like, although I live by myself, I don't feel any of the social isolation issues. I don't feel any of the distance, and like still feeling that support, still feeling that sense of community, despite the fact that, you know, we can't physically be around each other right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. Being around, having girlfriends has been very important to me since I was little. I grew up with 3 older brothers. It was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. It was fun, like playing with their toys and getting them annoyed because I wanted to play with their toys, and they had no choice but to allow me because I was their little sister. And I would go outside and I played baseball and roller skating and all that stuff. But I went to an all girls school, which was great. I think it was a little extreme for my taste because it made me very comfortable around women, which is great. However, you know, just dealing with, you know, the other, like, you know, having like boyfriends, not boyfriends, but, you know, friends who were boys was a little bit difficult. But I always, as an adult, like when I was younger, I think the relationship with other girls was, it could, you know, unfortunately it could get a little, you know, I don't know, intense.
You can say it.
You can say it.
Yes,
We're having an
yes,
honest conversation today.
yes, it could get a little bitchy and and catty and stuff. And but as an adult, I find myself having such great relationships with women, like friendships and sisterhood. And then I was lucky also to have a younger sister, which was it was I guess I remember getting so excited. I've never been so excited when I found out that well, first of all, when my mother got pregnant back in the day, we didn't know, you couldn't do the whole sonogram thing. So but I would pray every day that it was a girl. Like I'm like, I want a baby. I want a baby sister. It was like, and then when she was born, I was like, yay. So, but as an adult, I find that, and I find that sometimes when you are actually out of your way to be very nice and friendly with other women, especially at the workplace, that's happened to me. At the beginning, they would get very like they're almost like a little bit surprised. Like if I would go and if I see a woman, I would tell, you look great today, or you look beautiful. Like sometimes they would be like, oh, thank you. Like I don't know, like it's
Like
weird.
almost a little
Some
hesitant.
women, it's a little hesitant. Like why does she want something from me? And I because I have had this conversation before with my friends. It's like, why is it so hard? There's like this stigma. I think that it's what by you admitting or just recognizing that another woman looks beautiful, looks great. It's like it takes something away from you, and I never understood that. I don't get it. So I found myself actually, and then I see like I would see their attitude towards me completely changing gradually. And so, and like finding this sisterhood, this community that we have has been so incredibly amazing to me, because the support is different. The intimacy, I mean, girls' night out or girls' day out, spa days with my girlfriend. That's like those are so much fun. And like, I feel like sometimes maybe like partners don't get it, or why? It's like there's something about it that only if you're there, you really can grasp how special it is.
Yeah.
So to me, I couldn't live without it.
Awesome.
I can go. Yeah, I mean, I think similar to both Miriam and Tina, I'm in the contingent of folks that have always had close female friends. But what is so unique about the Madre experience is that it's actually a community where people at different life stages can still have that close relationship. Because it is hard, whether having single friends and married friends and friends with children, or friends that are taking care of their elderly, like family members. And I think because we all have a common purpose in the sense that we're entrepreneurs, or we're creators of things for our communities and our businesses, that we can really see our different perspectives as strengths, and actually like great input for whatever it is that we're building, and be able to find ways to come together, like Sister Circle, which I always say is my favorite part of Las Comadres, which is a monthly gathering where we just talk about ourselves, not about what we do, and not about other people, but just about ourselves. And so I think there's so many ways to be a woman, and this really lets us express that in whatever way that we want.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love that idea that you mentioned, because it's still taking a time for me to answer to that question, because I think I'm still rolling with the waves, because I used to be the kind of teenager and young woman who would call out those girly girls. And I mean, I started wearing pink 2 years ago. Like it was absolutely a no before. And like I had girlfriends and I have a sister, but somehow I always found myself saying, well, I'm not like those girls. I'm another kind of girl. And at some point, I realized I was not helping anyone by saying, those girls, like I'm not those girls. And then you would see how guys try to compliment you by saying, well, I like you because you are not like the typical girl. It's like, well, is that a compliment? Like, why are you complimenting me by attacking others? And yeah, and it's been a process. And what you, Christina, said about there are many ways of being a woman, and that's the thought that when I got that, it clicked for me. Like, yeah, that like there's not only a way, and there's no reason for me to reject a woman because she's too girly, because that's just how she is. And it's fine if I'm not that kind of woman. And also I can allow myself to be like that sometimes, and I can be, I don't know, goofy and just do a pajama night, which is something like I was so out of it. Like, no, let's talk about super intellectual stuff, and that's what guys do and not girls. Like all this crazy shit that I had in my mind. And yeah, I think that this specific community is the one that has showed me that I can be tender and intelligent at the same time. And that feels super.
Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Miss Jamie?
So I have always had a very large group of friends. I mean, I don't think that that's shocking to anybody, but I was like always the one that was like finding all the people that were like, oh, I'm not that girly, and I'd be like, come with us. And then like they'd be like, oh, but I do this, and I'd be like, oh yeah, come over here. I'm like, I have collected so many cool women in my life that are so different from each other that I've always really felt like if I have to be the one that shouts it from the rooftops that we can all be friends and everything can be, you know, not competition and whatever, then I will be that bridge. I will take on that responsibility. And I love the idea that women, like all the different ways you can be a woman and all the different ways that you can really, you know, express yourself and all the things that can happen and all the ways that we can work together and do really cool things.
Yeah. Awesome. I very much relate to Esther's experience because even though like I grew up around awesome, like I grew up around like very strong women in my family. I was pretty much an outcast all of like childhood and adolescence. And I had two really good girlfriends, and I was like, and that's it. That's how many there are in the world for me. Like I have my two people, like I found them. And like to this day, like we're still very, very close, even though they live in London. But like, I was like, those are my people. And I think I spent like most of my life up until like not that long ago, feeling like I was like picking out the good ones. Like it was like, oh, I have to like pick out the cool friends. And this was hardcore for me when I moved to Miami, you guys. I was terrified, okay? Like when I moved to Miami from Brooklyn, New York in 2012, I was like, okay. Like I had bought into every single stereotype of superficiality, of like empty-headedness, of like lack of interest in anything having to do with intellect other than the gym and the club that I had ever heard about Miami women, right? And so I was so sad. And then I think like the really cool thing that has happened over the past 8 years, but like especially with our community, is because even like as I started working with women entrepreneurs, I would say like, oh, I attract the good ones. Like I kept that separation, right? And like Las Comadres, in opening the door so inclusively, has been like a wake-up call for me that like, wait, we're all the cool ones. Like we all, like when we show up open-heartedly, like everyone is in and everyone is welcome, and there is that sort of that camaraderie and that collaboration and that true friendship, no matter what we look like, no matter what our priorities are, like as women we can connect. And like I think for me, one of the coolest things about our community is that it's almost like it's a space where you feel like you can strip all the roles that you have, like the mother role, the parent, the daughter, the employee, the like everything, and just like if we just show up as women, anyone who self-identifies as one, like just show up, like then what's possible? Like then how do we connect with each other? Then how do we get to know ourselves better? Like that's been like the biggest lesson for me, is like I feel like I had been using those barometers to like weed a lot of people out, and it was to my detriment, because like I like was missing out on relationships with incredible people, just because I had those random like, you're okay, you're not okay kind of. Does anybody relate to that?
Yeah, I was actually going to say a lot of this conversation reminds me of a book I read called Text Me When You Get Home, which is
Yes, you told me
yeah.
about this.
yeah, so basically like her first chapter echoes a lot of the things that Gabby and Esther and I am super guilty of having done as well, which is where we compare ourselves to like what this guy or this male perspective of cool is. And so then it's like, well, you're the girl that watches sports, so you're cool. Or you're the girl that can, you know, have a beer and shoot a shit with a guy, so you're cool. And then like, oh, you're a girly girl or you're a prissy girl who can't do those things. And like, so you're one of those kind of girls. And like, we've all done it, right, to an extent. And I grew up with two older brothers, so this was, I think, further ingrained into me, even though I didn't necessarily realize it until I got like a little bit older and I could start to differentiate like, oh, what are the things that I've been kind of absorbing without realizing it. But I think it's been like, again, Gabby, to your point, I was, you know, born and raised here in Miami. I left, and when I had to come back in 2009, I was like, shit, what now? Like, what am I supposed to do? And yeah, thankfully I've been able to settle in and find some like really amazing connections, definitely within La Comadres. And then they've introduced me to their friends, or they've brought in their friends into the fold. And it's just been like easy to meet these like really fantastic people, right? Fantastic, not only just in terms of the women I'm meeting with Las Comadres, but also their partners, what they're up to, their friends, their family, everyone else is coming into the community. Like, yeah, like I feel like in terms of the, you know, Miami people get a bad rap for being vapid or disingenuous or flaky. And that has been my experience, really, having made friends here as an adult here in Miami, and then more so ever since stepping into this community, you know, like you said, Gabby, all those things that I had told her, like, oh, like being one of the cool girls, or like, oh, I'm the girl that can hang out with the guys. Like, great, sure, I can, but I can also still have sisterhood and space and community, and I can still have these deep, meaningful relationships that are with women that are intimate in a completely different way, that know me in a completely different capacity, and I can show up for them in a different way and they show up for me in a different way that I just can't expect from my male friends. So yeah, it's great that you and me, guy friend, can go ahead and, you know, grab a beer and watch the game together. But if I want to talk about some witchy shit, like sorry, we're not going to be able to connect like that. I'm going to go to Jamie's house and I'm going to go burn some shit on fire, and I'll talk to you later.
I think like one of the things too is that like it's like what Esther was saying. It's like, wait a second. So when I qualify that my being able to hang with the guys is a good thing or makes me better than other women, I'm defining my worth based on the male approval or the male like idea of what I should be, and that being fully female is inherently like not good. You know, it's like all of these like patriarchal notions of what makes us better than, and like it's like such BS. Like this is also like, I love unpacking this stuff, right? Like where it even comes from and why we all buy into it.
Yeah,
like, and I think that like
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Continue.
It's happening. It's happening. I think it's also just like those things aren't inherently male. So like if we want to talk about like I'm learning about beer from Tina, like we like you know like I'm like a big political nerd. I like geek out on data and like with Madeline, like you can still it's about like being your full self, which I think is what is like really magic is that you can still do the things that you like whether you assign it as like a masculine or feminine thing and it'd be okay.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny because like I said, growing up with three brothers, I really like I feel very comfortable, you know, around men and women at the same time. But I think I'm on the other side of the spectrum, like maybe the girls that you guys, the people, the women that are like stereotyped. I've been stereotyped before, and I've been kicked. It's happened. It happens, and it still happens. It doesn't happen in this community, but I know it, and you know, and I have. It's beautiful to have women like not only brave but like honest enough to come up to me and be like, oh, you know what, I really like you now, but I didn't like you at all. I thought you were this. I thought you were a stuck up bitch. I thought you were this girly, you know, because yes, I'm girly, but could be my masculine. I'm extremely comfortable with the masculine as well, you know, but I've always been this feminine, this, you know, even growing up with three brothers, and I would hang out with them, but I was always me, you know, this is it. But that doesn't make me this like, ooh, fraily, girly, dumb girl, you know, because first of all, I've never been dumb. I love also, you know, history, and I love like, and I did very well in school. You know, I also geek out on things that might be considered male. I am not a sports lover. That is never gonna happen. It never has been. It never will be. I love the Olympics. I love the World Cup, you know, because it's like, it's fun. But I grew up, my father would watch soccer every Sunday, and I hated it. Okay, so that's never going to happen. I'm never going to do the beer and the games. And I remember with my guy friends, like, if they would get together, that fantasy football thing, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I don't like it. You know, it's boring, whatever, you know, but at the same time, I could be, I enjoy other things that are considered male as well. And I've been told, like, but friends that have become very, very good friends of mine, that have come up to me and be like, you know, I never got, you know, I have a hard time getting along with women, you know, period. And when I met you, when I saw you, even worse with you, but now I really like you. Like, I can't help but liking you. I'm like, well, thank God that you open yourself up more. And you know, in this community, I've encountered that honesty also as well, and that like, hey, you know, when I saw you from far away and I stereotyped, but I really got to know you, and I think you're very cool, and I like you, and you know, so which hasn't happened in other communities. So
it's also a really cool point, I think, to like for all of us, for ourselves, to check ourselves, like how often we do that, like how often we look at someone that we haven't met, but we immediately like make up 12 things about them, right? About their life and how their life must be and what they must be into and whether we would connect with them or not. And we decide whether we're going to be intimidated by them or not. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's this whole thing happening, and maybe we see a picture of somebody and that's it. And like, we're running with that. And like, just I think it's like fascinating to question all of it, even like, especially the things going on in our own heads about it, right?
Well, and I think also like the space for it too, right? Like how I don't really want to hang out with a bunch of people that are like me. I mean, I don't know what might happen. That'd be a lot, right? So like, it's so good to be able to have people that you're like, oh yeah, that's the person I can go do this thing, or that's the person I can do this other thing with, and also be able to like be excited for them when they get to be in the middle of their like zone of genius, right? Like the idea that you are so multifaceted, because we all are, and to be able to be like, oh, this is fun. Oh, this person knows about this thing. I would love to like try it or see it or be part of it is something that is, really interesting about just life in general. And so like if you can pull together like all the different pieces and see it, it's like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of interesting people out there to be able to just see really cool things.
And also, I don't know how's it been for you, but I felt that understanding that the way we behave has a lot to do with the structures and the society we live in, and how it is organized. And I think that's something that really changed the way I was looking at other women and my relationship with them, was understanding feminism. And I'm a proud feminist. And one of the things that have helped me a lot is like, oh, okay, so it looks like we learned since we are child that since we are children, that it's better to be against a woman and to pair with a guy than to be together. And there's a reason for that. I mean, it's not natural, it's something that we learn. And again, it goes back to patriarchy, and why are we spending energy fighting with each other where we could be much stronger. And I think that's part of how the world is changing these last years. The more we started to speak out loud, and regardless, it doesn't mean that you have to be friends with every woman, but when we started to listen to each other and share our stories, you could relate with women you had nothing to do, that like you thought you had nothing in common with, and said, well, like the book you were mentioning, like Text Me When You Get Home, like there is just the center, like this idea of, oh, so we all share this same feeling when we go back home at night, like this feeling of insecurity is something common. For me, that connects me with the rest. And with that goes anything else that we experience at work, with our partners, with our families, whether we want to be mothers or not. It's all things that come from this structure that I felt like the moment we start seeing it and talking about it, it starts to crash.
Yeah, there's something really powerful. Like I started to practice myself and just check myself with it. It's not like I don't necessarily always do it, but I realized that there was no need for me to put down other women. I mean, technically there's no need for me to put down anybody, but like for me to put down so for example, am I digging more the things that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is doing in the world than the things that Kim Kardashian is doing in the world? Yes, of course, but I don't have to poop on Kim Kardashian to elevate Alexandria. Like it was this concept of saying like, okay, like, and as you said, Esther, like it doesn't mean that like now we're best friends with everybody, because there's people that you're going to connect with more, but that we don't have, there's no rule that you have to put anybody down. Mm-hmm. Especially as women, that we can all rise. And I think like there's like an understanding there of standing in your light, regardless of what's happening, because certainly like Kim Kardashian has spoken at women entrepreneur conferences, right? And she's like a lot of people really look up to her, and like there's a part of me that is like ugh about that, but also like it shouldn't matter. Like awesome, good for her. Like if she is spreading her own kind of light in the world, like more power to her. I'm gonna be over here sprinkling light on like the things that and the values and the like projects that I'm excited about, and in the ways that I'm excited about in the world. And so like but it's like there's no law that says we have to put anybody down, and like really that when you look at your own life and you look at your own relationships, you see that those moments where you are putting other people down like mostly impact you, right? Like the one that's left feeling crappy and like low is you. And so like an opportunity to check ourselves with that, I think.
Also I was just going to jump in like to two different points. So Esther, like the whole concept of like texting when you get home is actually, it's also just like when you go out with your girlfriends and it's just you girls, you guys have a girls' night, and you texting when you get home is your way of saying almost like, I love you and I want to make sure you get home safe. So it's not necessarily just the concept of like, I'm scared that you're not going to get home safe because of all the other things that are happening in the world and you are at a higher disadvantage of getting home safely because you're a woman, but also just the like the sisterhood part of it of just, I want to make sure you get home safe, and like let's text each other when we get home and like recap the night and gossip or shoot the shit, whatever, right? So it's kind of like a twofold sentiment. And Gabby, to your point in terms of like how viewing other women and choosing and how all that's evolved, like I feel like at this point my feminism is just, or my view of being a woman is just expanded to just like every woman gets to choose that for herself, and that there's enough space for all of it. There is not one side, there's like an infinite amount of space for all of us to do as we so choose, and there should be no judgment as to how we choose to show up, right? Unless you are being detrimental and you are tearing other women down, in which case, yeah, we're gonna have to have a chat about it. But there is not, there is space for all these different women to show up how they want to advocate for things they want to. And I feel grateful for that because I get to learn, and I get to model, or I get to show other women what I know how to do, and hopefully they can elevate whatever it is that they're trying to get to as well, right? And we don't have to choose. It's not like, well, if I teach you how to do this, then like I'm robbing myself an opportunity. Like, no, I'm going to teach you how to do this thing, and then both of us are going to be able to move further together, and we're going to be able to do it faster.
And I think that's one of the biggest, like, thank you so much for saying it out loud, because to me, like, that also reminds me of like, that's the power of intention. And when like hundreds of women walk into a space with that intention, right? Like it's the intention itself becomes bigger than everything else, and it overpowers whatever instinct you may have had before to like do something different, right? To like put people down or whatever. Because if you're in a space where it's all like juicy and supportive and uplifting and like awesome and good and like connected, there's no energetic room to like put people down or to feel like you are less than, like, because we've created like almost like a secret little container for something different. And I want to spend time, the second part of this conversation, I want to spend like definitely a few moments talking about what it means to truly trust each other. And one of the biggest things I think that we get to practice in Comadres is vulnerability. Because there are a lot of other spaces, just like part of this conversation is that there are a lot of other spaces that are for business where there is a sense of pressure that you have to walk in and have like all of your shit together. You have to know all the things. You have to like be ready to execute and kill it. Like you have to sort of already be there in a way. Otherwise you walk in and you feel like incomplete, or like you're not there yet, or like there's something missing in you. And so one of the things I really love about our community is that there is the like very much like, if you're feeling called to this space, this is for you. Come as you are, and like there is room for you here, and we can be in it together. So, but there is, we are asking people to do two things. We're asking them to show up, and we're asking them to be vulnerable, because it doesn't work if those two things don't happen. So I'd love to hear your experiences with showing up and being vulnerable, just like in life with other women, and how you eased into allowing that for yourselves and your lives.
You're like,
I know, everybody got real quiet.
That was a loaded question.
I think for me, it has always been sort of what I expect of others, I have to show myself first, right? So like if I am expecting others to show up vulnerably, I have to show up vulnerably. If I am expecting other people to trust me, I have to trust them. And there's been this, I played a ton of sports as a kid, and like being on a team, I feel like really encouraged that as well. Like these are your people, like they will protect you. If you have the ball, like they will knock somebody else over for you. They will like do the things that they need to do to get you there. But you also have to, there's a level of proving it, but there's also a level of like being able to accept it, right? So like if you're going to be able to show yourself and then someone else shows them, you have to be able to accept their vulnerability. And it's always a really interesting space to be in, because it's like the way that you can connect with someone. Like, you see other people's vulnerability as brave, but you see your own vulnerability as weak, right? And like, to be able to like see your own vulnerability as brave as well takes another step.
Yeah, I actually, now I'm thinking, I have felt very comfortable showing up very vulnerable to this community, and in a larger scale and in smaller groups, more intimate and one-to-one. Um, but I just remembered when I met um, one of my best friends, because I also used to think, Gabby, that it was like the one or the two like best friends forever, and it's like when you move. Also, I moved to another country. I had to rethink that all over again, and I still have childhood friends, which is amazing. But I found amazing adult friends. And I remember I also grew up a little bit with the notion, because also my father was a very strong personality, and he wanted me to be strong too. Like, extreme. He raised me very male female. Like, he wanted both for me, and he wanted me to be strong as like very like, and it was almost perceived as weakness to show if you're sad, if you're down, if you're, people see you cry. So I remember all my life I was a little bit that way. I was more like, no, I'm okay, but I'm not really. And it was the sign of weakness. And this friend of mine, who is still my amazing friend, who's for that we've gone through things together. I remember she, like, probably like a week after she started working with me, she like told me very like things that were going on in her life with her parents, like very openly, in such a refreshing, like, and actually like funny way. She's like, listen, my life sucks right now, whatever, but this is what's happening. I'm like, wow, I would have never somebody that I just met a week ago, but then that made me admire her so much, because like, she trusts me. She's like seeing something in me, to say these things to her, because I guess I'm a good listener. I guess, she doesn't really care that I'm going to go out and say whatever she told me, because she's an open book. She's like a major open book. And I'm like, wow. And then I started to be like that with her. And I went through a lot. Like, I went through a horrendous like breakup. And I remember not showing up to her like bawling my ass out or anything, but when we would leave work, maybe I would just tell her, this is how I'm feeling. And it just opened a part of me that's just, and I will be grateful to her like forever. I feel like people in your life,
she modeled it for you, right?
She did. She really did. And I feel like that, and it's a lot easier for me now.
Yeah.
And I feel also that people put their guard down when you put yours down too.
Yes. Yes.
It's like it's like, I don't test it on purpose, but when it happens, it's like when I put and it's like the other person's like, oh yeah, me too. And it's like, so now we're here. We could, talk to each other. We could relate to each other, because you're not up here and I'm down here, so that's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I learned, because I still don't do well with vulnerability. It would be BS to say that I'm super good with talking through my emotions. I'm not, but I'm working on it. And when you mentioned that, Gabby, when you asked the question, I instantly thought of one of my girlfriends. She's kind of this person that we've been like soul sisters. Like, we connected very well, but the dynamic was always that she would very easily cry and not in a, well, just cry. Like, I feel happy and I feel like crying, then I cry. Like she would be this channel. And at first I would freak out, like, what am I supposed to do? That, like, do you need a hug? What? Like, I didn't know how to deal with that. And And I feel that throughout the years, because I've known her for a long time, she's like been coaching me on emotions. And when talking, she would be like, how do you feel, Esther? Like, okay, tell me, it's okay. Have you cried about that? Like, no, well, you should. But she's been very gentle about it. And she's been very honest about, well, I know that I am this way. And I know that I freak out people because tears just come to my eyes. But she has a beautiful way of teaching people, or at least me, how to deal with their own emotions. And I think since we are talking about girlfriends, I think it's beautiful that I'm having this person that takes me by her hand and just allows me to open little by little, not by pressuring me, but actually by example, and just by knowing me really well and saying, well, I know you are not okay. So like, I remember this time when I was telling her something that was very tough for me, and then I would laugh, which is something that when you say something that it's sad, and I don't know, it's like a thing I do to react. Yeah. And then she would super serious, like, why are you laughing? Is it funny? Like, no. Okay. So having a girlfriend that really supports you on that process has been my 101 of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think similar to what everybody has said, I have found in trying to develop adult relationships that the only way to have real authentic friendship is some level of vulnerability, like on both ends, right? And I think one of the things that I've worked through Unas Comadres is actually like experimenting with that. And I think it's helpful when you're in an environment where it's not a transactional relationship, right? So unlike other like communities that have a business focus where you're thinking about networking so that you can get, talk to Y or to get X. That does happen. Like I've collaborated with a lot of comadres, but it's all like based on an authentic relationship. And that requires a level of like realness, and it's not, you don't have to be perfect or act like you have everything together all the time, because that's just like literally not possible, particularly in this moment. And even if it's just like having that grace with yourself, changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like that's a huge point. I love how everybody's kind of spoken to some extent about how this is something that's modeled. So I feel like if you're thinking of joining and you're like, oh my God, but I don't know how to be vulnerable, like, don't worry. A, we all work on it every day, and B, like, I'm the first to admit that this is a daily practice for me. Because like one thing that I realized last year in some personal development work that I did is like, I like talk a really good game. Like if you check out my Instagram, you're like, oh, Kathy's so vulnerable. Like I avoid vulnerability by talking about it, but not by actually doing it or being it or practicing it. And so like, it's been like a really fascinating, like I've had to just like Christina was saying, like give myself a ton of grace and a ton of compassion. And like, also like for me, it's been a reminder that I can be messy and I cannot have my shit together, and I can like just not know the right decisions or not know what's next. And I'm still worthy, I'm still lovable, I can still like let people support me and help me through that process. Like all of these are incredibly novel concepts for me. Like incredibly noble. And even though like I totally would give that grace to others and be that kind of friend to other people, I had a really, really hard time letting people be that kind of friend to me. So understand that this is something that we are all practicing and we are all learning, and that like it just, all it takes is, because I find one of the things that I find fascinating, and like I've had these conversations with people, but I've also experienced it myself, like in any space in Las Comadres where you kind of show up and you're like open-hearted, but you're like a little cautious. You're like, I don't know what's going to come out of today. We'll see. And then like out of nowhere, 15 minutes in, your like eyes are watering up and you're like, want to share something. And you don't even know where that came from or like why it's happening or why somehow you feel safe and comfortable to do that. But that's, I think, like the bigger point here, that is the kind of environment that gets created, and that's the kind of space that gets held when you feel like, wow, like there's this thing that's been buried inside me for a long time, or this thing that I've been feeling that I haven't been naming, or this feeling that I haven't been able to express, that all of a sudden, when I'm sitting in a group of women, or when I'm sitting one-on-one with another woman, and there is space for vulnerability and modeling that kind of connection just happens. And like, the thing that I want to really, really stress is that it happens and you feel held. You feel supported. Like, you feel like they are right there with you. You don't feel like you're in the air, like hanging, and you're going to be left alone. Like, you are going to have women that are there with you. And when we think about like bringing it back to business, like all of the moments where you're not sure if you can make that business move, or if you're ready, or if you have the support and the resources that you need, or if it's the right move, like a lot of what's in between, like where we are now and where we want to be in business, is this like mountain that only gets broken down with vulnerability. Right? Like between here and here, like the way that we tear that down is by being able to show up and say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. Like, here's what I feel comfortable about. Here's what I don't know. Here's what I need to learn about. Here's what I need. I need money. I need relationships. I need connections. I need somebody who's an expert at X, Y, or Z to help me so that I can move through this. But having the vulnerability to show up imperfect and say all that and like ask for help and be vulnerable, like gets you through to the other side, right?
And I think with so much networking stuff, it is that idea that you are like, it's perfectly shiny, nothing is happening over here, right? And like that idea that like you go into business and on day one you like have some idea of what you're doing. We do have questions from Facebook that I was going to give to you. One question is, one said, I'm in New York, I wish I was in Miami. Well, you are in luck, my friend. We are opening for whomever, so if you are in New York, you are more than welcome to join us. We are doing all of our stuff online.
Our entire community has shifted online because of the pandemic, and the online experience has been so badass that we have decided to stick with it. And so on Monday we open to the world. So yes, on Monday you can join us.
Exactly. There have been many hearts and many check marks, as well as several, I'm so happy I'm here, I love the comadre. So that is, I wanted to report because we are open on several pages.
Awesome. Cool, ladies. Any closing thoughts about the community and how, I don't know, who should join? Who do you think it's for? Why it's good?
Your experience.
Your experience.
If you're a girl who thinks you should only hang out with the guys, you join Las Comadres.
Thank you, Tina.
There you go. Oh wait, I did just add to say one little thing about the like showing up vulnerably, in vulnerability. I felt like I was always great at showing up really vulnerably with like one-on-one with like friends that I already trusted, that I was already comfortable with. Like then they would just see me like full Kardashian cry, snot, gross, speaking God knows what, you know, like I was so like that part I was super comfortable with. And I remember it was one of my first sister circles where we were sitting around. I remember I had a beer in my hand and some of the other women were getting really deep really fast, and I was like, girl, do you even know what my name is? Like this is, but just the fact that they were just like, they just showed up on a dime. They were like, we're gonna talk about it, and like the conversation just flowed. There was no like what the fuck is she like, what did she just say? Like no, it was just like, yeah, all right, well, we're gonna talk about this, cool, let's talk about it. And everyone just joined in, and it was just like, that's also extended outside of sister circle. Like, you know, for example, like even with my writing, like I'm very comfortable showing my writing to people that I already know feel like it's good, but like if I share it on Facebook, for example, within the group, I'm like, shit. Let's see how this goes. You know, so but it's the practice of it. And so in my case, like the practice of being vulnerable is not necessarily something I've had to work on in terms of one-on-one. It's like extending outside of my little bubble of trust, my little circle of love, and being like, okay, now we get to open that up and also be just as, show up the same way outside of that.
Yeah, you get progressively braver at your own pace.
Very much at my own pace.
I remember that happening at one of the co-working openings. most of the women that got very deep and very comfortable were new. It was their first day, and there were tears and there was a lot of emotion, and it was beautiful. It was I was shocked in a good way, because it was their first day. So that goes to show you, the vibe and the energy that was felt that way. And also, personally, I have two things. This has changed. This community has completely changed my concept of networking, my fear of networking, my sort of resistance. I'm an artist, and by nature we're not into that. Like, networking was like, oh no, thank you. Like, I feel like I'm an outcast. Like, nobody really. I mean, you tell them what you do, they're like, huh? It's like, it's just like very, with the corporate. Nothing wrong with corporate world. It's just the networking, the way it's structured. Sometimes. So that has been, this community has made a complete shift, because it's not only, it's not business only. It's like sisterhood is showing up vulnerable, emotion, support. So that was amazing. That's been amazing. And also, the I never in my wildest dreams think that I would be showing up and actually on video speaking live without choking, or feeling like an idiot. And this is like a new me that I really like and I'm comfortable with now, and I'm like, nobody can shut me up. So so it's been huge. And it all started with this community, because it's like you're training wheels, and it's just like, okay, I'm good. So then you just start showing up to the rest of the world. So
Thank you, Mary.
I would say try it. And also I would say gift this to yourself, because that's the way I see this. For me, it's like something at some point I decided to give to myself. And when I got in, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I wasn't even an entrepreneur, and it didn't matter, because it was just me joining a community. And I've heard so many women in this community say, well, I don't know, because maybe I'm not a woo-woo person, and I don't know if I will fit. And 2 months later, they're like, it's perfect. And regardless of how you are and what you like, I think that you can find your spot. And that's how I felt. And that's also, I always say this because I think that right now I'm the only comadre that's across the ocean. And the only reason that is that because I felt so connected to the community. I felt that was so important to me that I didn't want to miss it. And also now that the online experience got so good, I honestly think that you can get a super good online experience, because I felt all these small and not so small gatherings. I felt the energy through Zoom calls, which is something that I didn't think was possible. So again, just try it and give this to yourself, honestly.
Awesome. Christina, anything to add?
No, I think that over time, it's just affirmed how much I love being in a community of women. It's something special that you can't get anywhere else. It does take a little work on your part, but being vulnerable and breaking down some of the stereotypes and narratives that you have in your head. But it's worth it. I think I like to say, when it's going really well, it's magic. So yeah, I think that being in community with women is a great sense of modeling the things that you'd like to do, learning from other people's mistakes, and also helping you figure out as a person the type of woman that you want to be.
Awesome. Beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. So we are going to close there, comadres, because we have come up on the time. But Thank you so much to our madrinas for showing up here and sharing your perspectives and your stories. And a reminder that we open our doors on Monday, May 4th. So if you are interested in joining us, take us up on it. Try this out. It's really magical and awesome in here. So we would love to have you. And you can live anywhere and still join and have the most amazing experience. And we would love to get to know you. So thank you so much.